another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and today it's time to talk all things free agency as it pertains to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But before we get into all that, I just wanted to say, if you are watching over on YouTube, do your boy a favor and hit that like button. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on all of this Cavaliers content. Also, if you want to support the channel in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. A link is already in the description of this video, and you can support the podcast for as little as $1 a month. That's less than you spend on coffee. Anyways, with housekeeping aside, the Cavaliers don't have much to work with outside of the MLE and still have needs in multiple areas. This, in fact, coincides with a free agent class that, let's cut it, ain't all that awe-inspiring, to be honest. That said, there are a few targets here and there that make sense and can definitely fill a need for Cleveland. But before we get to the outside targets, let's start with some internal targets, as it's been reported that the Cavaliers have extended qualifying offers to both Okoro and Emoni Bates, making them restricted free agents. This gives them the ability to match any deal the two are offered. Now, Isaac's qualifying offer was listed at $11.8 million, and I do not believe Emoni's was made public as of yet. Now, obviously, Okoro is the more important decision of the two, right? He's coming off a season in which he played in 69 games and made 42 starts, averaging 9.4 points and 3 rebounds over 27.3 minutes per game, while shooting 49% from the floor, including 39.1% from three-point range and 67.9% from the free throw stripe. Isaac has not lived up to top 5 draft billing, but nevertheless, he remains one of the Cavs' best defenders, and some would consider him an integral part of the team. I would. He's a stout defender out on the wing, has improved over time as a spot-up shooter, he knows his role, and essentially this all comes down to price. He can likely make much more than the $11.8 million qualifying offer he is being extended, and after watching the Bulls hand draft day peer Patrick Williams a 5-year, $90 million deal, Okoro and his representation have to be chomping at the bit to fight for a similar type of deal. This honestly will be a interesting situation to watch play out. And my hope, and it's my ultimate hope, is that we will be able to get him back on a reasonable deal. But if we can, I just hope that we can get something out of him via the sign and trade, something like that. Emoni might get a small offer, but I would honestly bank on him returning, so it's not really worth a discussion. Now, we get to the real conversation here, which is some of the outside targets, the free agent market itself, which may not be as flush as years past, but could certainly yield a valuable role player or two for the Cavs. Now, I doubt Cleveland will make it a point to reach out to restricted free agents with their limited cap, but I won't shy away from those names either. Let's start by addressing one of the Cavs' two biggest needs, shall we? That is at backup 4-5, assuming the Cavs roll into the 2024-25 campaign with Mobley and Jarrett still manning the starting front court. First up is Darius, who just spent last season with the Golden State Warriors, where he put up averages of 8 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 2.3 assists, while knocking down 37.6% of his triples on decent volume at 3.1 attempts per game and just over 17.2 minutes per game. Sarge would be a solid fit, in my opinion, in the front court that is essentially short on floor spacing. He's a solid rebounder. He can move the ball well. And while he isn't a noted defender, the Cavs are uniquely suited enough defensively to hide him, right? He could line up beside either Jarrett or Evan Mobley in different lineups. And according to Cleaning the Glass, he spent 48% of his minutes at power forward while spending the other 52% at center. He could be attainable for a reasonable price, and hopefully he is a person and a player that the Cavs consider bringing in. You know who else would make too much sense for the Cavs? Jalen Smith. And before y'all judge me, I know he was effectively benched last year during the playoffs, but how much of that is due to positional redundancy in regards to a front court full of solid players like Miles Turner, Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam, and Isaiah Jackson? Personally, I see a big man that still has a lot of upside. He's coming off a season in which he put together averages of 9.9 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 1 assist per game, while knocking down an efficient 59.2% of his field goals, including 42.4% from three-point distance on 2.4 attempts per contest. Now, you would check numerous boxes, in my opinion, as he can rebound, he can knock down that three ball, and actually has size, right? As he's listed at 6'10". He's versatile enough to play at either the 4 or the 5, and cleaning the glass has his numbers split at 21% at the power forward and 79% at center in terms of minutes. Role and fit makes sense here. We could offer him a solid role, solid minutes, and I don't think that there's a logjam at the front court. That's just me, but I don't know. Maybe you guys see it a little bit different. But to me, there isn't necessarily a logjam in that front court position like there was over in Indiana. So I don't think fit or minutes or anything like that would be an issue here. So the real issue is probably going to be the money. Smith has become an unrestricted free agent after declining his $5.4 million player option for the 2024-25 season. Now, the question is, how much of the MLE would the Cavs be willing to offer him? Me, personally, I would give him closer to all of it if need be, just considering the options for floor-stretching big man are pretty scarce right now. So, get it done. Bring him to Cleveland if you can. Now, the massive hole at backup big has been apparent since Kevin Love left, so why not explore the idea of actually bringing him back? Just right your wrong. Love is coming off a season with Miami in which he just averaged 8.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 2.1 assists while caning 34.4% of his triples. Almost everything the Cavs have been missing at the backup 4-5, Love can provide. He knows how to operate within the confines of team basketball. He's a veteran presence. And most importantly, we know through years of experience that he can actually reliably space the floor. Love apparently has expressed interest in returning to Miami, but I don't think it would be out of the question to rule out a return to Cleveland given the money and, role. I think this is something that you could potentially sell Kevin Love on. Consider bringing him back. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, as I said earlier on, the Cavs may not try to pry many restricted free agents from their respective teams, but one player I definitely check in on is Trendon Watford, who is entering restricted free agency for a Brooklyn Nets team that is entering a state of upheaval. Some people may view Watford as more of a 3-4 than a 4-5, but considering that he only suited up for 2% of his total minutes at the 3 last year, while playing 69% of his minutes at power forward and 29% at center, I consider him a big more than anything. But above all, it just speaks to his versatility. You can legitimately play this man anywhere 3 through 5, depending upon the lineup. His burgeoning ability as a floor spacer is the real seller to me, though. He shot 39.7% from three-point distance this past season, and while the volume isn't at all high, it still shows that the skill set is there. He would be a solid fit if he could be had for a decent price, so keep an eye on that one. Next up is one of the names that you're probably going to continuously hear for any team that's starred for backup big depth, and that is Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba would likely be attainable for the vet minimum. Now, he's flamed out with multiple teams, but the intrigue with Bamba is all about the ability to space the floor. He's a career 36.1% shooter from three-point range, and of course, it does help that he is a 7-footer. I would buy low on him. That's a name to keep an eye on. Moving away from the bigs who can space the floor, the Cavs could still opt to bring in a more traditional big to back up Mobley and Allen. And that would probably be somebody like Mason Plumlee, who could be a cost-effective big man who could give a solid 13 to 15 minutes a night. He is coming off a season with the Clippers in which he just averaged 5.3 points, 5.1 rebounds, and completed over 56.9% of his shots from the field. And in my opinion, he is worth taking a flyer on, perhaps on a veteran minimum. That's a name to keep an eye on. One name who will inevitably be mentioned is Tristan Thompson, who is coming off a reunion season with the Cavs in which he just averaged 3.3 points and 3.6 rebounds in just over 11 minutes per game. Now, the numbers obviously were they were higher pre-suspension, but how much of that was due to the PEDs? I don't know. Right. Either way, I would advocate for a Tristan Thompson return, but with two major caveats. The first is a veteran minimum contract. That is a non-negotiable and probably the standard with him right now. And the other is that he essentially be glued to the bench, as he's just entering that spot in his career. So if they could do that with him, like just give him the Udonis Haslem role. Let him be a glorified coach out there. But I say all this to say, I will be grateful for his contributions to the championship team that we had years back. And there are far worse options as your 14th or 15th man that you can employ. But at this point in time, Thompson's time as a contributor in a rotation is probably past. That said, I'd still enjoy seeing him back. And while we're talking about Cavs reunions, why not entertain the idea of bringing back former Cavalier Andre Drummond? Now, it would certainly solve the rebounding issue and would give Cleveland an imposing body down the low post, capable of handling the beefier centers of the NBA world. As we all know, one of the big slights against the likes of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley is that they just can't stand up to the bigger centers of the world. You know, your Nikola Jokic's, your Joel Embiid. And while those guys are kind of one-on-one in what they're able to do, you can see in specific instances in which Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen both struggle to defend bigger centers. Now, I know people probably soured on Drummond in Wine and Gold because of his previous stint here, but this is a much different Cavs team, and Drummond is in a much different position in his career than he was back during the 2020-2021 campaign. A lot has changed since then. He finally knows his role. He finally accepts the fact that he is a role player, and he's fully embraced life as a reserve. And he ultimately may not cost much. Drummond is coming off a season in which he just averaged 8.4 points and 9 rebounds while completing over 55.6% of his shots in just over 17.1 minutes per game. A reunion makes sense in my opinion. So James Wiseman is available. Can I interest anybody in a potential buy low signing here? Wiseman is entering quintessential low-risk, high-reward territory after flaming out with yet another team, that is the Detroit Pistons. Take a shot on them, Cavs. What do we got to lose? You can get them for low. Of course, there are other bigs out there that I could be sold on as cheap, low-risk options. Rashawn Holmes, Daniel Tice, JaVale McGee, Thomas Bryant. Those are just some to name a few. But let's move on to the wings position group, starting with none other than incumbent UFA Marcus Morris. When Morris signed a 10-day contract with the Cavaliers, I was over the moon happy about what he could bring to the table, and all Morris did was provide solid minutes off the bench and almost immediately look better, than off-season acquisition George Niang when he got real minutes. Morris would average 5.8 points and complete over 41.4% of his triples in just 12 regular season appearances for Cleveland. But the lasting impression and last memory that we have of him donning the wine and gold is him dropping 25 points on the Boston Celtics in Game 5 of the Eastern Semis, almost single-handedly keeping them afloat. I have a feeling Morris will look elsewhere, but I do have a lot of interest in retaining him. I know that interview that he gave challenging Jarrett Allen on actually playing, that definitely hurts. But I would still entertain the idea of bringing him back solely based upon the production on the court, and I don't think it would cost a lot to do so. Next up is Naji Marshall, a 6'7" wing who is very likely to be an available talent in target out on the market. He is coming off a season with New Orleans that saw him average 7.1 points and drill 38.7% of his triples. Now, I get it. The volume isn't exactly all-inspiring at 2.3 attempts per game, but the ability and the skill set is there. It's honestly very easy to look at the numbers and feel like it's very Isaac Okorian. But Marshall has the size that Cleveland has longed for. He's versatile like Okoro, spending 54% of his minutes at the 2, 36% at the 3, and 7% at the power forward position this past season, meaning that he could be used in a number of lineups. But the issue here is likely cost. He could potentially earn much, much more than the $1.8 million $1.8 million that he got last year. And I've seen anywhere from $5 to $8 million being kind of thrown out there, potential deals for him. It is MLE range, but how much would the Cavaliers be willing to pay for him? Next up is none other than former Creighton star himself, Doug McDermott. Yes, sir, Dougie McBuckets makes sense as an MLE option. And it feels like Doug has been in the league for a million years at this point. And honestly, he kind of has, right? He has been here for a while, over a decade, in fact. His best skill remains his ability to shoot from 3-point range, something he has done with high efficiency over the years. It's why he has a career 41% shooter from beyond the arc. McDermott is coming off a 2023-24 campaign that saw him split his time between the San Antonio Spurs and Indiana Pacers, where he managed to shoot a collective 41% from deep. And if I were the Cavs, I would consider him. You know, one of the most beloved yet frustrating Cavs of recent memory is hitting UFA. And if you guys care to guess who that is, that's right. It's Cedi Osman. Cedi Osman is entering the market. He is coming off a decent season with San Antonio, where he put up a meager 6.8 points and 2.5 boards, but he remains a respectable marksman, completing 38.9% of his triples. His second straight season knocking down 37% or better, in fact. A reunion could make sense if the price is right and other options are off the board. And essentially, I wouldn't rule it off the board. Honestly, I was a big fan of Cedi while I was here. As frustrating as he can be at times with the inconsistencies and, you know, coaches playing him out of positions and, you know, the lackadaisical effort on defense at times, he was still a fan favorite here, and I enjoyed his tenure for better or worse. And I wouldn't mind seeing him back, provided the cost is right. And the next one here is going to be sort of a short and sweet one because I don't think the Cavaliers have any real shot to sign him. And that would be none other than Derrick Jones Jr., who is rumored to be a heavy priority to be signed back to the Dallas Mavericks. Jones Jr. is a lockdown defender who he's got okay size, right? He's listed at 6'5", maybe closer to 6'6", and is incredibly balanced. We know all about the highlight reel dunks that he has. The issue with Jones in relation to the Cavs is his shooting, right? The ability to shoot is very spotty with him. He has come off a regular season in which he shot a career best 34.3% of his triples, and that sounds low, right? But he did manage to shoot 36.9% of his triples during the Mavs' run to the finals this past playoffs. I'm very interested to see if the Cavs have any interest in him because based upon our need for wings, bigger wings, it would make you believe that they would probably opt to target taller options. And speaking of other options here, Saddiq Bey is a name to keep an eye on as he wasn't tendered by the Hawks, making him a unrestricted free agent. Now, he's shown promise as a potential 3-and-D wing, but has admittedly been disappointing with the Hawks at times. And the problem that a lot of people probably don't actually seem to understand or remember is that this man just tore his ACL in March and could potentially miss the entire 2024-25 season, if not a large share of it. So that's probably going to dissuade a lot of people from taking a chance on him on a long-term contract. But you could potentially buy low on him. So if you can get him under a 2 or 3 year contract for a low amount, I would entertain it. I think that's something that should be on the table. Nick Batum is also a name to watch this offseason for the Cavs because he checks a lot of boxes, right? He would probably cost a bit more, but he's worth exploring for a Cavs team short on size out of its wing group. At 6'8", he has positional size and versatility to be thrown out in multiple lineups. He can shoot the 3-ball, as indicated by his 39.9% for the Sixers this past season, and he is a respectable defender still. Now, he will be entering his age 36 season and has a wealth of postseason experience, suiting up in over 69 career postseason contests. So I think this is somebody that you should probably keep an eye on if you're the Cavaliers. He might be out of our price range, but nevertheless, keep an eye on him. Now, this next one is probably just me dreaming, but I would love to add Kelly Oubre. I know he shot poorly from range this year, and honestly, he hasn't. He shot poor his entire career from 3-point range, but he can generate his own looks and is versatile enough to line up anywhere 2 through 4. He just came off a season in which he just averaged 15.4 points and 5 rebounds for an injury-riddled 76ers team that wants to retain him, and I can understand why they want him to. But even if they may not be able to, Cleveland still may not feel comfortable spending the bulk of, if not all of their MLE on him. I wouldn't expect it, but I would certainly love to see it. That was a guy that I honestly was hoping that the Cavaliers were able to swoop in and take last offseason, where nobody seemed to really want to add him earlier on. He sat for a while and Philly ended up snatching him up. So maybe that happens this time around, but after providing solid minutes for Philly, I think he's probably going to cash in on that. So we'll see. Would a potential Taurean Prince reunion interest you? Now, I would be okay with it, as Prince can still space the floor at a good level, knocking down 39.6% of his triples on a very respectable 4.6 attempts per game for Los Angeles this past season, and over 27 minutes per game across 78 appearances, including 49 starts. But maybe the ship has sailed. Honestly, I would love to see that happen. Taurean Prince, he has the size at 6'6", 6'7" out there, and you know that he has played for maybe not a contender, but a decent team, right? A decent team in LA out there, so you know that he could provide you real solid minutes, and he can space the floor, so why not entertain him? Another name is Robert Covington, who is available, but I got to say, he's always been a favorite of mine, but has been kind of a non-factor for these last 3 seasons, so I'm not sure how much the level of interest is there for him. On paper, like, Rocco makes a lot of sense, but he hasn't been all that efficient, and he hasn't been all that healthy over these last couple of seasons, so who knows? Maybe he is a buy low option. I would certainly keep an eye on him. Kyle Anderson is an intriguing name, but is a career 33.8% shooter from 3-point distance. Still though, he has a great size at 6'9". He's a solid rebounder and can make plays for others. He's a legit small forward, and that's the thing. We don't really have a true 3, do we? Got to consider him. Beyond that, it is truly a toss-up. Lamar Stevens is available, as are TJ Warren, Jay Crowder, and Jordan Mora. And while I don't necessarily want to ignore the guard position, I gotta be honest. I don't want to put our limited assets into that group, considering we still roster Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Craig Porter Jr., Karis LeVert, Ty Jerome, who a lot of people still forget about. And you can honestly even add in Jalen Tyson, right? The recently drafted 20th overall pick, considering he played at point at the collegiate level. We aren't hurting there. That's the thing. But I still, regardless, throw some feelers out for players like Tyus Jones, maybe Max Christie, Monte Morris. There's a couple other out there. But honestly, nobody is a true needle mover that we can afford. All the needle movers at either the 1 or the 2 are out of our price range. And let's be honest, I really like the potential of Craig Porter Jr. And while I understand that you probably want to add a bigger player at the 1 or the 2, like a legitimately taller player at that position, either of those positions, honestly, I still like the potential that Craig Porter Jr. showcased during his rookie year out of Wichita State, going undrafted. The guy just seemed as poised as a veteran out there, and I get, being at the collegiate level for so long, that definitely aided in that. He came in as a more polished rookie, and he still definitely has areas of growth. Most notably his penchant for not really pulling up as much as he should from 3-point distance. But at the end of the day, I still like the potential that he has there. So I don't really want to focus the bulk of our MLE, or really any of it, to be honest, on the guard group. But I certainly understand putting a couple of feelers out there, seeing who might be available or who you might be able to bring in. And I'm sure the Cavs will do much the same. Anyways, there you have it. That is my list of free agents right now. And with free agency due to start at 6 p.m. as of recording this on June 30th here, a lot can happen. This is going to be a busy night. So I cannot wait to see what ends up happening. Anyways, like I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. Please consider becoming a member over on Patreon if you want to support the show in a small way. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Go Cavs.